Following Governor's Debate. Jobs, education, economic development, healthcare, public safety, family rights, important issues facing Michigan voters. Tonight, gubernatorial candidates Jennifer Granholm and Dick DeVos take questions from undecided voters in their final debate before the November 7th election. Live from the studios of Channel 7, here's your moderator, WXYZ-TV editorial director, Chuck Stokes.
Good evening and welcome to this final live debate between Governor Jennifer Granholm, the Democratic incumbent, and Dick DeVos, the Republican challenger. Candidates, thank you very much for coming this evening. I know you've been crisscrossing the state, but welcome back to Detroit, better known these days as, what audience? Tiger Town.
Tiger Town.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Joining us to carry this debate are WZZM-TV in Grand Rapids, WJRT in Flint, WLNS in Lansing, WWTV and WWUP-TV in northern Michigan. This debate is also being simulcast on the internet and a network of radio stations from Marquette to Monroe. The format for this debate is as follows. The candidate receiving the initial question will have a 2-minute response. The opposing candidate will have a 1-minute rebuttal. And if criticized, the original candidate gets an additional 30 seconds to respond. At the end of the debate, the candidates will have 2 minutes each for closing statements. Now, I'm sure you can see the lights, the middle light, the yellow light. When you see that on, it means that you have 15 seconds left. Obviously, the red light, like the streets, means it's time to stop. Joining me to question the candidates are two of Michigan's best anchors, Stephen Clark and Diana Lewis of Action News. Later in this broadcast, you will hear from the audience, undecided voters putting questions to our candidates, Governor Granholm and Mr. DeVos. All right, let's begin. Diana Lewis, your question to Governor Granholm.
Governor Granholm, from Michigan's economy, unemployment, outsourcing, downsizing, to insurance concerns, the people of this state are facing some serious financial issues. In response to comments we've received here at Broadcast House, if you were only allowed to enact one piece of legislation, what would you do in order to affect the greatest positive change in this state?
Thank you. Thank you to Channel 7 and particularly to the folks who came in today. And if I had one piece of legislation to adopt, I would adopt our 21st Century Jobs Fund. This is a $2 billion fund to invest in diversifying Michigan's economy. We know that we are very tied to the automotive industry, and we know that we've got to enlarge our economy. And so this fund is more than any other state, and it is using tobacco settlement money. It invests in 4 areas: life sciences, alternative energy, homeland security and defense, and advanced manufacturing. In the first round of funding, which was about a month ago, we awarded and encouraged and got 61 companies to come to Michigan, grow in Michigan, and most importantly, hire people in Michigan in those areas of our economy. So I know we'll be talking more about that as we go forward this evening. But before I go any further, I do want to take a moment to address one concern right off the bat to my opponent. In this past week, Mr. DeVos, and even yet this evening, has used the names and the images of school-aged children who are deceased. These images he has used to create an unfounded political attack on me, using these images to further his own political ambition. Mr. DeVos, if you have a beef with me, bring it on. I can take it. Use my name. But let's leave the names of deceased children out of it. I hope we can talk about the future of the state of Michigan tonight. But if you're determined to pick a fight, I hope you'll pick on somebody your own size. And I would ask and challenge you this evening not to use, either this evening or in the future in commercials, the images of dead children.
Time, Governor. Mr. DeVos, your rebuttal.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you all for your time today. It's good to be with you, and I appreciate the opportunity. I believe the question was, what would I adopt as legislation? I would adopt my economic plan. I would adopt the economic plan that I put forward, 134 specific ideas, beginning with trade offices around the world, going from the one we have now to 10. I would adopt a plan where the governor would take responsibility for economic development. I would adopt a plan that would transform our tax structures to stop punishing our employers and to stop doing the things we do to stop job creation. My plan will get results contrary to the results we've seen or the lack of results that we've seen over the last 4 years. And the governor talks about 61 grants. Governor B, let's be honest about it. 27 of those grants have gone to universities. Only 18 have gone for commercialization. So only 18 have gone to actually making products and bringing products to market. The rest have really been research grants. So I think it's fair you should call it a research project, not a jobs project.
This is.
Do you have a rebuttal?
Yeah, I sure do, because this initiative will create jobs in areas that will not be outsourced. My opponent is somebody who has contributed to the problems in Michigan by supporting these free trade agreements and personally lobbying for them. What this initiative would do is create jobs for our children and our grandchildren that will not be outsourced. Yes, some go to universities to commercialize their ideas, put a good business plan to them, and to make sure that they take root and grow in Michigan for our kids.
Thank you very much. Next question, Stephen Clark to Mr. DeVos.
Mr. DeVos, the governor throughout this campaign has leveled much of the blame for Michigan's problems on the Bush administration. Last week, the Michigan Democrats began running an ad that morphs you into Mr. Bush. It's a two-part question for you. First, is the characterization accurate? And second, the Democrats clearly intend the ad as an insult. Are you insulted?
To be compared to any president of the United States should never be an insult. And so I certainly don't accept that. The unfortunate news for the governor and for those on the Democrat Party who have put this ad together is that the governor's not running against George Bush. The governor is running against me. And the governor is running against what is happening in the rest of the country. The rest of the country is doing great. 5 million new jobs have been created around the rest of the country. 5 million new jobs, and yet in Michigan we're 85,000 down. When this governor took office, our unemployment rate was roughly equal to the national average, and now unemployment is up 50% above the national average. We've seen for the first time in Michigan average incomes dip below the national average. We've continued to see underperformance, as though somehow, but then the governor continues to try to blame Washington, as though somehow it's Washington's fault what's happening in Michigan when 49 other states are doing great. 49 other states are moving forward. 49 other states are adding jobs. And yet Michigan is the only one lagging behind. It seems to me it's time that the governor accepts responsibility. Accepts responsibility for being the governor. Accepts responsibility for the environment here that is driving jobs away. For the lack of leadership that has not allowed for us to progress, for the kind of environment here that has punished job creation, only to send our jobs to other places. Yes, there has been outsourcing in Michigan, Governor. 85,000 jobs have been outsourced, that under your administration have been outsourced to other states, to other places. We can and must do better in Michigan.
Governor Granholm, your rebuttal.
Your darn tootin' jobs have been outsourced, and they've been outsourced because of these free trade agreements and a Bush administration that is not standing up for our automotive sector. My opponent has been one of George Bush's biggest financial backers and personally lobbied for the passage of these free trade agreements that have so devastated Michigan's economy. My opponent says that we're the only state in the country that is losing jobs. We are the only state in the country that is the automotive capital of the world. It is not rocket science as to why Michigan is uniquely challenged. When Ford and GM and Daimler Chrysler are challenged, we are challenged. When their suppliers are challenged, we are challenged. The automotive footprint in Michigan is enormous. When I got here to this job, 240,000 jobs had been lost by my predecessor, again because of this restructuring. It wasn't his fault. Governors don't negotiate trade agreements. Governors don't enforce trade agreements. Governors don't design vehicles. But what we can do is set in motion an economic plan that is second to none, and that's what I've done.
All right. Mr. DeVos, you have a rebuttal?
Certainly. 49 other states all operate under the same trade agreements. Every one. As a member of the United States, we operate under the same trade agreements, Governor, as the rest of the states. And they've been adding jobs. The job creation in America has been going very, very well. And yet in Michigan, somehow we're going backward. The governor is responsible. The governor's responsible for setting an atmosphere, that creates jobs, that brings investment to this state and moves us forward.
Thank you, Mr. DeVos. Mr. DeVos and Governor Granholm, we have received tons of questions. Almost too heavy for me to lift. I haven't been working out that well. But if I could summarize this, and I'll begin with you, Governor, I would summarize it this way. A number of citizens who voted for you 4 years ago are reluctant to do so again because they believe you let them down and did not do all that you said you would do. Conversely, many of them also believe that Mr. DeVos is trying to buy his way into the governorship. And as one viewer, Adam Bonerick of Dearborn, said, I don't trust his motives. In the time that you have tonight, how will you convince those voters to vote for you and to try to give you 4 more years?
Thank you. I want to let the voters know, because they may not have heard of all of the pieces of this economic plan. Nobody knows better than I do that we have to reshape Michigan for the future. And so that's why you need to know I've got short-term, medium-term, and long-term strategies to move Michigan forward. In the short term, I've signed into law 84 tax cuts, targeted tax cuts, including a $600 million tax cut for manufacturers to try to make us as competitive as we possibly can. We know that taxes aren't the only reason why jobs are going to Mexico or China, because, of course, job providers can pay 50 cents an hour in other countries. But we want to do what we can do inside of Michigan. We have revolutionized workforce training. We've got more victims of this global economy than any other state in the country at the moment. People who've seen their jobs go on a slow boat to China or the internet to India or a fast track to Mexico. So we've put people in short-term training programs in partnership with community colleges to train them for the vacancies that exist. There are 92,000 vacancies in Michigan today, largely in areas that require certification. Third, we are speeding up building projects all across the state. I'm sorry about the orange barrels. Every orange barrel means a job. We're taking 10 years worth of building projects and pulling them all into the next 3 construction seasons to put 40,000 people to work. The 21st Century Jobs Fund that I described, as I said, is the biggest in the nation, investing in diversifying an economy. It will create tens of thousands of jobs that will not be outsourced. And we are also upping our standards with respect to education, making sure now that we have set in motion, in fact, got through the legislature, signed into law. We are considered to have among the top 3 states in the nation for what we expect of our high school graduates. Our goal is to double the number of college graduates. It is critical that you know that this plan has been set in motion. There's a healthcare piece too. And it's also critical to realize how we got here. And we got here because of the challenges in this global economy, challenges that were contributed to by my opponent.
Mr. DeVos, can you answer Mr. Bonerick? Are you trying to buy your way into the governorship?
Well, to suggest that, I think, is to suggest the people of Michigan can be bought, which, if I were, as a citizen of Michigan, I find that insulting. People of Michigan that I talk to have been pretty darn independent. And they want to hear from the candidates, and they want to see who has a plan to get it done. But more importantly, they want to see results. And that's the problem. That's the problem we have in this election. If the results had been there, I'm sure we would all be sitting here and we'd be encouraging the re-election of the governor. But there have not been results. We hear more about plans. We hear more about what's going to happen the next 4 years, and yet in the current 4 years, I mean, this sounds like the first election. And yet 4 years have gone by, and we have gone backward, while the country has gone forward. I mean, it's just unacceptable. Now, someone wants to talk about motives. This is a challenging time to talk about motives when the governor has some difficulties Some say we'll say anything and do anything to win election, according to the Detroit News.
All right. Governor
Thank
Granholm.
you. Right. Our auto economy has been 100 years in the making. It is true that you can't flip a switch and transform it overnight. Diversification takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. But believe me, this economic plan that we have set in motion, we've planted these seeds, we've got a lot of work to do. But even today, there was a study that was released that talked about the growth in our non-automotive sectors, in Automation Alley. Last week, there was another study said that 55,000 jobs have been created in the non-automotive area, in areas that will diversify our economy and enlarge our economy. That's the good news for us. We know we've got work to do, but we've got a plan to be able to do it with.
All right. Thank you, Governor. Diana Lewis, your question to Governor Granholm.
Mr. DeVos?
Yes.
Mr. DeVos, if you are elected governor of this state, do you think it is time for Michigan to follow the lead of California, Florida, New York, Ontario, Ireland, and many other places in banning smoking in all bars, restaurants, and public places for the health of the citizens?
We certainly want a healthy environment and a healthy community. But no, I don't support that initiative. I believe that the citizens of Michigan would like to be able to choose. Increasingly, citizens of Michigan are choosing smoke-free environments, and I think that's a good thing. And I believe that that is going to ultimately result in a smoke-free community. Many communities themselves are going smoke-free, and again, that is their decision. But we're seeing right now people making choices, making free choices, and that will lead us, I believe, ultimately to a smoke-free environment. Michigan is struggling in health. We have health care issues in this state, to be sure, and we have got to make some real progress on all of those areas. And certainly the people of Michigan, I think, are moving in the right direction in terms of accepting personal responsibility for that.
Governor Granholm?
Yeah, I very much support smoke-free environments, and if a bill like that arrived at my desk, I would sign it. But I also think this is a moment that we can talk about our health plan for the state of Michigan as well. I've proposed a universal access to affordable health care plan. It's called Michigan First. I'm in the final stages of negotiating with the federal government to be able to do a bit of what they did in Massachusetts, if any of you saw that. They're providing universal access to affordable health care there. In partnership with the federal government, we're going to do the same thing. For those who are at 300% of poverty and below, 200% of poverty and below, we provide a no-frills benefit package that is subsidized by both the state and the federal government. For those who are above 200% of poverty, we'd offer the same benefit on a sliding scale depending on income. This would be all administered by the private sector. The state would be a connector, connecting people to these plans. It's very exciting. We want to show the nation how we can lead the way in providing health care because we need it. We are, as a nation, one of the only nations in the country that does not provide some assistance to business with respect to health care. We put the full burden on the business community, and it makes us uncompetitive. Our automobiles now have $1,600 per vehicle embedded in those kind of costs. Now, my opponent, I would challenge him to tell us what his health care plan is, because previously he has said that his health care plan is get a job.
All right. Mr. DeVos?
The governor has talked about a health care plan. After 4 years, there still is no plan. There still is no legislation. There still is no results. And in fact, 53,000 less people in Michigan have health care than when this governor took office. 53,000 less, not more. Once again, we're going backwards. Once again, Michigan is not leading the nation. Michigan is trailing the nation. And once again, the governor is promising what's going to happen in 4 years. But we haven't seen results in the 4 years that have passed already. We can do better. We need results, Governor.
Hey, Stephen, your question to Governor Granholm.
Governor, you and your opponent continue to debate the relative merits and evils of the single business tax. The truth of the matter is it's gone. And you do seem to agree, both of you, on the need to replace at least a portion of that money. Keeping in mind that at 6%, Michigan's sales tax is among the lowest in the region, would you consider raising it to 7 or 8% or consider a tax on services?
No. I would not. In fact, what I'd like to see is a restructuring of the single business tax, and I put a proposal on the table that replaces it, restructuring it as a business tax. I don't want to shift business taxes to citizens, which is what raising the sales tax would do. But what I would like to see is to make sure that we do replace it. Right now, today, the revenue we take in from the single business tax is as low as it's ever been, and that tax has been around for 30 years. It's just structured in a poor way. So what I've proposed is to lower the rate, to flatten the base, to make it more sensitive to profit, less sensitive to the full value of the business, the compensation, and to simplify it, simplify it, simplify it. My proposal is called the Michigan Jobs and Investment Act, and you can see it online. But make no mistake about it, my opponent would suggest that taxes are the reason, potentially, why businesses have chosen to leave Michigan. In the last debate, I talked about a company called Electrolux in the first debate. And that company, we offered 0 taxes for it to stay. And it made refrigerators. And it decided to go to Mexico, where it could pay $1.57 an hour, because they could. And it was much bigger profit that they'd be able to make, even if they got 0 taxes. So in this global economy, it's not taxes alone that make the difference. Now, my opponent has suggested several things. I'm not sure exactly where he is today, but with respect to the single business tax, I believe he says he wants to replace half of it. That means $1 billion would be cut out of state government. And then he said last week that he would also replace a second tax on business and equipment, which is another almost $2 billion, another $1.7 billion. And then he said he wanted to replace almost all of it. I'm not exactly sure where he is, but if he leaves $1 billion hole in state government, it will hurt citizens. It will hurt public safety. It will hurt public education. It will hurt the things that we value, like our quality of life and health care for vulnerable citizens.
All right, we need to get to a quick break. When we come out of that break, we will pick up with Mr. DeVos.
If you've got a high-definition TV, Channel 7 has a high-definition newscast, Detroit's first high-def news. True widescreen, crystal clear picture. Detroit's only choice for high-def news is 7 Action News. On your side. Detroit's best morning newscast, overnight news.
Breaking news from overnight.
What's happening today?
Stories we're working on for you right now.
Your first weather.
Hey, it's jacket time.
Traffic tracker updates.
A traffic alert for you.
Plus fast, complete school closings. Watch 7 Action News this morning, tomorrow, on your side.
Okay, Mr. DeVos, we now get your response to Governor Granholm's comments.
Thank you, Chuck. Yes, the SBT does need to go away, and the governor has basically proposed SBT replacing SBT with, guess what? SBT. What I proposed is that we replace SBT with a gross receipts tax or a corporate profit tax. 45 states in the union have a corporate profits tax. They know what that is. Companies know how to deal with that. They can deal with that uncertainty. I've also said that we need to replace the revenue for personal property tax and SBT. We have got to move this state forward with a tax structure that's going to be pro-growth, pro-jobs, pro-Michigan workers, not the other way around. This governor vetoed eliminating SBT, now wants to replace SBT. I'm the one who's a bit confused about this reality. Michigan has a lot of work to do. Reforming our tax code is one of the things that we must do. Our Michigan businesses are struggling. We cannot stand by and allow our jobs to go elsewhere because the governor is not choosing to show leadership. 4 years, said right 4 years ago, SBT needs to go. Nothing happened.
All right, thank you, Mr. DeVos.
Thank you.
Governor Granholm, you get a 30-second response.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My opponent has said that businesses should pay their fair share. And yet when he was CEO of Amway, he incorporated his subsidiaries in Bermuda to avoid paying U.S. taxes. That is certainly not paying his fair share. It is skirting, it is taking advantage of the Bermuda loophole to avoid paying his fair share of American taxes, which fund the things that we value.
Governor, you're doing it again. You know that's not true, and you're doing it again. That's disappointing.
All right, we'll build time in if you want to respond a little bit. We're going to try to keep with the
Certainly,
rules,
Chuck.
and you can always weave that into the 2 minutes that you have. We're now halfway through our debate, and it's time to get to our audience questions. Seated among us are approximately 30 undecided voters from very diverse backgrounds. They've come prepared with a wide range of questions. These undecided voters have been screened and selected by independent pollster Tim Kiska. We also got significant help locating some of our audience members through our partnership with Inform, formerly known as the Women's Economic Club. This is the voters' opportunity to speak directly to the candidates. The ground rules are the same. And candidates, we ask that you stay behind your podiums to answer the questions, just to make sure, because we have a little bit of a mic problem with Mr. DeVos, and we don't want to make sure everyone can hear exactly what his answer is. Okay. Stephen Clark?
Okay, I'll begin. Is this a question for the governor, I believe, from Christine Seecaw of Chesterfield Township? If you could please stand up and ask your question loudly and clearly.
Okay, hi. My husband and I, we were both lifelong...
I'm sorry, this is for Mr. DeVos. I wanted to clarify.
Okay. My husband and I were both lifelong Michigan residents. We're the parents of 3 children, and we're longtime business owners in the community. Financially, our business is having its worst year ever. We're also watching our school systems struggle financially, and we've become terrified of what the future holds for our family to stay in the state of Michigan. I would like both candidates to try to convince my family why we should stay. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks for being here. I hope your family does stay, but I certainly understand as a business person, as one person's business person to another, I certainly understand the challenges that you're facing here in Michigan. And for you and for your children, a family business. I grew up in a family business too, so I appreciate also how important that is to a family. But as business owners, the important thing to note is that change is possible. And if we can keep on going the way we've been going with a governor who's never worked in a business, who has never had to sign the front side of a paycheck, who's never had to make a significant personal investment decision, who's never had to do the kinds of things that you and I have had to do in the day-to-day conduct of our business. If that governor is going to try to transform an economy in this state, I think you start off behind, and that's why we've seen there's no results. The governor does not have the experience to understand what it takes, and that's why we need to change. That's why we need new leadership. If there was ever a time in Michigan's history when we needed a business person in the governor's office, now is that time. Now is the time to deal with the business issues that we're facing, the jobs issues we're facing, the family businesses that are struggling, transforming taxes, making it easier for you to do business, one-stop shopping with state government, a state government that works for you, not against you, regulations that are simple, clear, and easy to understand so you know what you have to do to stay in the rules. That's the kind of government that a DeVos administration is going to bring, one that understands the reality of job creation. Because when we do that, what happens? You expand your business. You grow your business here. And your small business, just like my family business, which was small too, becomes a big business, becomes bigger and bigger, and begins to add and expand and contribute to our communities. The truth is, if we don't change, revenues are going down. Right now, in this state, we've seen tax revenues go down. We must change to be able to continue the way of life we've come to love for those of us who've grown up here in Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. DeVos. Governor?
It's Christine?
Yes.
Christine, and what kind of business does your husband, or you and your husband run? I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's a plumbing company.
A plumbing company.
Yes.
All right. And you've got 3 kids that are what ranges?
We have 1 in 8th grade and 2 in high school.
Okay. All right. So I'm married to somebody who is a small business owner also, and I've got 3 kids, 2 in high school, but 1 in a little bit younger. And are you from here originally? You from Michigan originally?
Yes.
All right. So you know how magical this state is. You know how phenomenal this state is. And you know that we are tied to the automotive industry. We are going through a restructuring right now, but we're going to be okay. We have set this economic plan in motion to truly transform the future of Michigan. I want to make sure that your kids have jobs when they graduate and that my kids have jobs when they graduate in areas that will create jobs that won't be outsourced. It's why we're speeding up all these infrastructure projects and building projects to be able to provide work to those who are in the trades, but it's also why we want to make sure that we diversify this economy and up our standards for schools too. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. DeVos, do you have a response at all?
Well, Christine, once again, 4 years, it's gotten worse, hasn't it? You just said that it's the worst year in your business history.
Yes.
We've got to do better. We can do better. It's time for a change. Michigan has so much possibility, so much potential. We need you here. We want you here. We'll keep you here.
Thank you, Mr. DeVos. Diana, your question from your audience member to the governor.
Thank you. We have Rola Daher of the University of Michigan Dearborn, an undecided voter with a question for Governor Jennifer Granholm.
My question is that experts universally agree that the best way to fix our economy is to invest in our educational system. While this looks good on paper, college students are paying an increasingly high tuition every single year, pricing many potential students out of an education. This is partly due to a decrease in state funding. As governor, what do you plan to do about that in the next 4 years?
Right, Rolla, there is no doubt that we have got to invest in our higher education system, make sure that we don't see these continued increases in tuition. Our goal, we've set a goal of doubling the number of college graduates in Michigan over the next 10 years because, and when I say college, I mean either a university or a two-year community college or a technical or vocational certification. So I've asked the legislature to pass a $4,000 scholarship for every single child in the state of Michigan, every child, regardless of whether they pass a standardized test or not. Because right now, kids only get this merit scholarship if they pass the standardized test. We want to essentially be the first state in the nation to pay for K through 14. Now, $4,000 may not get you 2 years at U of M, but it is a significant step toward helping you out. And in fact, it pays for the equivalent of 2 years of a community college. We got it through the Senate. I'm expecting we are going to get it through the House. It's also why we've increased the standards for what we expect of our high school graduates to further this effort of doubling the college graduates and helping parents to be able to afford sending their kids to college. Now, when I got in this chair, I inherited, you might remember this if anybody was paying attention, I inherited a $4 billion budget deficit from my predecessor cumulatively. So I've had to cut more out of state government than any governor in the history of Michigan. I've had to resolve more deficits than any governor in the history of Michigan. So it has been a tough 4 years in terms of trying to preserve the things that we value and still keep college affordable, still keep making sure that we've got health care for our citizens. There is no doubt about it that if a tax scheme like what my opponent is suggesting, it goes through, where you cut another $1 billion out of state government, you'll not only see tuition increase, but you will see people being let out of prison, you will see people being cut off of health care, and you will see public education class sizes increase.
Mr. DeVos.
Governor, you know that's not the case, and you continue to perpetuate it. What I talked about is getting jobs going in Michigan so that when you get out of the University of Michigan Dearborn, you're going to have a job here in Michigan and an opportunity. And that's what we have to have. And the governor hasn't, you talked about tuition going up. You know how much it's gone up, actually? In the last 4 years, it's up 50%. It's going through the roof. And this governor has talked about it but done nothing about it. In fact, the governor for 4 years, four straight years, has tried to cut a thing called the Michigan Tuition Grant Program to allow low-income students to be able to go to college. And this governor tried to cut that program 4 years. This is not back at the beginning. This is just this year. And so the governor is talking a good game once again. But the truth is tuitions are too high. Our kids are not getting the access to the universities and colleges they deserve. They need support, and they need a governor who's going to not only support education, which I will do, but also provide a job at the end.
Governor, have you tried to cut that tuition grant program?
I've tried to roll all of the scholarship programs into one and up the ante, put the merit scholarship on steroids by increasing it from $2,500 to $4,000 for every child in the state of Michigan. So it's actually an increase for all children. That's not contingent upon whether they pass a standardized test. But I would like to know from my opponent how he expects he's going to cut another $1 billion from the state government and still increase the investment in higher education or increase the investment in making sure we... All right, got it.
I know it's hard to get in, but
it is.
You all negotiated these rules. All right, Stephen Clark.
Mr. DeVos, I'd like to introduce you to Brian Berriger of Northville. Brian.
Hi. To both candidates, the Canadian trash issue, as everyone knows, has gotten to such an extreme, and it candidly boggles my mind how it's even an issue for us, other countries and other states dumping their trash inside of our borders. My question is this: yes or no, if elected, will you make it a top priority to eliminate Canadian trash in other states from dumping their trash within our borders? And also, if yes, in what period of time approximately will you make it a priority to do so? Thank you.
Well, thanks for asking. The answer is yes, absolutely. And we've got to stop this practice of arbitrarily being forced to take trash that we don't want or don't need, certainly don't need here in Michigan. We've got to get a handle on this, and we need to go to Washington to get something done. And the governor has actually run ads talking about how effective I've been in Washington getting things done for the people of Michigan. And so I'm ready to go to Washington, work with Congressman Mike Rogers, who's actually been a leader on this particular issue, to keep trash out and to allow us to protect our state and to be able to take what we want to take and not what we don't want to take. We need leadership in Washington. We need leadership in the state to get it done. Now, this is not, you can do it. There's one way that you can do it, and that is to penalize Michigan citizens in the process. And that's what I won't do. I'm not going to penalize Michigan citizens by raising all of our prices and raising our costs of business here for all of our citizens for trash disposal in order to deal with this. There's a way we can do it. We go to Washington, we get it done. We work with the legislature here in Michigan to make it happen, and we can protect our state. We must.
Mr. DeVos, the question was very specific in terms of a timetable. Is there a time limit that you want to put on that?
Oh, you know, putting a time limit on Washington, Chuck, is pretty hard to do, but it will be absolutely a top priority to get it done, and we'll put that one right up at the top of the pile.
Very good. Governor?
He's right that it has to be done in Washington because of something called the Interstate Commerce Clause in the Constitution. But there are things we can do inside of Michigan, which I have proposed and supported in the legislature. One is to ban the expansion of new landfills, because if you build it, they will come. But my opponent's party refuses to extend the ban on new landfills. I've also said, let us raise the fees that it costs to dump into these landfills, because if you raise the fees, it becomes less attractive. Right now, we are among the cheapest places in the nation to do that. Again, what my opponent was just saying is that he would be not in favor of doing that. If you want to have a disincentive to have others come in and make Michigan the dumping ground of North America, then let's make a disincentive for it. Let's raise the fees and put that toward recycling, because recycling is an important way to reduce the amount of trash in our state as well. But I haven't, he says he's going to get it done. Mike Rogers hasn't gotten it done. Debbie Stabenow got something done. She got an agreement with Canada to stop the municipal waste coming over.
Mr. DeVos?
And in 4 years, this governor hasn't gotten it done either. Brian, we've got to do better. And the governor talks about recycling. Recycling is down in Michigan under this governor's leadership, on this governor's watch. And in fact, talking about keeping trash out, what the governor is saying, what she's really saying is penalize the people of Michigan. Charge everyone in Michigan more in order to get this done, substantially more. I don't think that's the answer. There is a better answer, and I'm determined to work with Washington to find it, to protect Michigan, and to get it done without penalizing the citizens of Michigan.
All right. We have an email question that I want to go to, and right after that, I'm going to go to Diana Lewis with her question to Governor Granholm. We've talked a little bit about higher education funding. What we have not talked about is K-12. On the ballot will be Proposal 5, a legislative initiative to establish mandatory school funding. We got several emails dealing with this issue in one way or another. I'll give you an example. Dave Petros from Wyandotte. He says it's obvious that K-12 public school funding is in serious trouble, and he wants to know what you're going to do to solve the problem that retirement and health care insurance from organizations such as the MEA far exceed new revenue coming in. Amber Witt of Grand Rapids wants to know whether or not addressing property tax as the primary revenue for that source of funding is going to continue, or whether or not you come up with something better. Governor Granholm, that question is going to go to you.
As we were saying before, there's no doubt about it that education is going to be one of the important ways that we transform the future of Michigan. So we've got to invest in the stuff between the ears. We have to invest in our human capital if we are really to transform as a state. We are, as a state, unfortunately, in the bottom third of states with respect to the number of adults in our population that have had the privilege of being able to get a college degree. And if you look at the states that have the most robust economies, they're the states with the most well-educated workforces. So this is why this year and last year, the amount of money that we are investing in K through 12 is at record levels. It's record funding this year and last year. In fact, because of that, we have invested more in after-school tutoring in math and science because we want to make sure that those middle schoolers are prepared to take on the new high school standards, which require them to take 4 years of math and 3 years of science. It's why we've invested more in early childhood education as well, because education, of course, is a lifelong learning experience. There is no doubt that we can do more to make sure that we save as much as we can. And one of the ways that I think will be helpful in saving, will reduce the premiums for everybody in terms of health care, is by my Michigan First Health Care initiative, which would, because you will be insuring those who are uninsured,